Marcus Williams woke up at 5:30 in the morning just like every other Tuesday. The sun had not yet risen over the city of Atlanta, but Marcus was already planning his day. He lived in a beautiful penthouse apartment that overlooked the downtown skyline. The walls were covered with awards and pictures from his business journey. There were photos of him shaking hands with famous people and speaking at big conferences. Marcus was only 38 years old, but he had already achieved more than most people dream of in their entire lives. He was the CEO and founder of Tech Forward Solutions. This company started in his garage just 10 years ago, with only $5,000 and a big dream. Now it was worth over $1 billion and had offices in 20 different countries. What made Marcus special was not just his business success. He was one of the few black CEOs in the technology industry. He had worked twice as hard as everyone else to get where he was. People often doubted him because of his age and his race. But Marcus never let that stop him. He believed that hard work and good ideas could overcome any obstacle. Marcus walked to his bathroom and looked at himself in the mirror. His hair was styled in neat braids that reached just below his shoulders. The braids were perfectly done and looked very professional. He had worn his hair this way for the past 5 years. For Marcus, these braids were more than just a hairstyle. They connected him to his African heritage and reminded him of his grandmother who used to braid his hair when he was a child. Many people in the business world had told Marcus to cut his hair. They said that braids looked unprofessional in corporate America. But Marcus refused to change. He believed that success should be measured by talent and character, not by how someone looked. His company had grown bigger and stronger every year, even with his braids. This proved to him that his beliefs were right. After getting dressed in his favorite navy blue suit, Marcus sat down at his kitchen table to review the documents for today's meeting. These papers could change everything for his company. He was flying to New York City to meet with Premier Airlines. They wanted to buy his new software system for $50 million. This would be the biggest deal in Tech Forward Solutions history. The software that Marcus had created was revolutionary. It helped airlines manage their flights better and made travel easier for passengers. Premier Airlines had been testing the system for 6 months, and the results were amazing. Flights were on time more often. Customers were happier. The airline was saving millions of dollars every year. Marcus had worked on this project for 3 years. He had stayed up late many nights writing code and testing systems. His team of engineers had put their hearts into making this software perfect. Now all their hard work was about to pay off. The meeting today was just a formality. The contract was already prepared and ready to be signed. As Marcus packed his briefcase, he thought about how far he had come. He remembered being a young boy in a small apartment with his single mother. She had worked 2 jobs to pay the rent and buy food. She always told him that education was the key to a better life. Marcus had listened to her advice and studied computer science in college. After graduation, Marcus had worked for several big technology companies. He learned everything he could about business and software development. But he always dreamed of starting his own company. He wanted to build something that would make a difference in the world. More importantly, he wanted to show other young black people that they could succeed in technology too. Marcus called his driver and headed to the airport. He was excited about the flight to New York. The first-class ticket cost $2,000, but it was worth it for such an important meeting. He had flown with Premier Airlines many times before and always had good experiences. The staff was professional and the service was excellent. During the car ride to the airport, Marcus called his mother to tell her about the big meeting. She was so proud of her son. She remembered when he was just a little boy playing with computers. Now he was running a billion-dollar company and about to sign the biggest deal of his career. Marcus arrived at the airport feeling confident and ready to make history. He had no idea that in just a few minutes his entire day would change completely. Marcus stepped out of the black car at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. The morning air was cool and fresh. He grabbed his leather briefcase and rolling suitcase from the trunk. The driver wished him good luck with his meeting. Marcus smiled and tipped the man generously. He always treated people with kindness, no matter their job. The airport was busy with travelers rushing to catch their flights. Marcus walked through the main terminal toward the Premier Airlines check-in area. He had flown first class with this airline at least 30 times in the past 2 years. The staff always recognized him and treated him like a valued customer. He expected today would be no different. Marcus approached the first-class check-in counter. There were 3 agents working behind the desk. 2 were helping other passengers, and 1 was free. Her name tag read Patricia Johnson. She looked to be in her 50s with short gray hair and thick glasses. Patricia was organizing papers and did not look up when Marcus walked up to her counter. "Good morning," Marcus said politely. "I have a first-class ticket to New York for the 9:15 flight." Patricia finally looked up from her work. Her eyes immediately went to Marcus's braids. She stared at his hair for several seconds without saying anything. Marcus noticed her strange expression, but stayed calm. He handed her his ticket and driver license. Patricia took the documents but kept looking at Marcus's hair. She seemed uncomfortable and kept glancing around as if looking for someone to help her. Marcus started to feel uneasy but tried to stay positive. Maybe she was just having a bad morning. "Is there a problem with my reservation?" Marcus asked. He had paid full price for the ticket, and his seat was confirmed. There should not be any issues. Patricia cleared her throat and spoke in a stern voice. "Sir, I need to inform you about our appearance standards for first-class passengers." She pointed to a small sign behind her that was difficult to read from where Marcus was standing. Marcus leaned forward to read the sign. It mentioned something about appropriate grooming and professional appearance, but the words were very small and unclear. He had never been asked about his appearance when flying first class before. "I am sorry, but what exactly is the problem?" Marcus asked. He was dressed in an expensive suit and looked very professional. His braids were neat and clean. He could not understand what Patricia was talking about. "Your hairstyle does not meet our standards," Patricia said firmly. "We require all first-class passengers to maintain a professional appearance. Those braids are not considered appropriate for our premium cabin." Marcus felt like he had been hit in the stomach. He could not believe what he was hearing. He had been flying with Premier Airlines for years, and no one had ever complained about his hair. His braids were part of who he was. They were neat and professional looking. "I have flown first class with Premier Airlines many times," Marcus said. His voice was still calm, but there was confusion in his eyes. "I have never had any problems before. My appearance is professional and appropriate." Patricia shook her head and pushed his ticket back across the counter. "I am sorry, sir, but I cannot allow you to board with that hairstyle. You will need to change your appearance or choose a different flight." Other passengers in line behind Marcus started to notice what was happening. Some people were staring and whispering to each other. Marcus felt embarrassed and angry, but tried to control his emotions. He was a successful businessman who had always carried himself with dignity. Marcus took a deep breath and asked Patricia for her full name and employee number. He also requested to speak with a supervisor immediately. Patricia seemed annoyed by his requests and said that no supervisors were available at the moment. The situation was becoming more uncomfortable by the minute. Marcus had built a billion-dollar company and was about to sign the biggest deal of his career. Now he was being told he could not fly because of his hairstyle. This was discrimination, and he knew it. Patricia called security when Marcus refused to leave the counter. 2 security guards started walking toward the check-in area. Marcus realized this situation was about to get much worse. He needed to do something quickly before things got out of hand. The 2 security guards walked slowly toward Marcus and Patricia at the check-in counter. One was a tall man with dark skin who looked to be in his 40s. The other was a shorter white woman with blonde hair. Both wore blue uniforms with Premier Airlines patches on their sleeves. Marcus watched them approach and felt his heart beating faster. Patricia pointed at Marcus and spoke to the security guards in a loud voice. "This gentleman is refusing to follow our dress code policy," she said. "He will not leave the counter and is causing a disturbance. Please escort him away from the first-class check-in area." Marcus held up his hands to show he was not being aggressive. He spoke clearly and calmly to the security guards. "Officers, I am not causing any trouble," he said. "I am a first-class passenger trying to check in for my flight. This employee is refusing to let me board because of my hairstyle." The male security guard looked at Marcus and then at Patricia. He seemed confused about the situation. Marcus was dressed in an expensive suit and carrying high-quality luggage. He did not look like someone who would cause problems at an airport. "What exactly is wrong with his appearance?" the security guard asked Patricia. "The man looks professional to me." Patricia became more agitated and pointed at Marcus's braids again. "Those braids are not appropriate for first-class passengers," she insisted. "We have standards to maintain. He needs to change his hairstyle or take a different flight." By now a crowd of people had gathered around the check-in counter. Some passengers were taking pictures with their phones. Others were recording videos of what was happening. Marcus felt humiliated as more and more people stared at him. He had always been a private person who avoided public scenes. A young black woman in the crowd spoke up loudly. "This is discrimination," she shouted. "You cannot deny someone boarding because of their natural hair. This is wrong and probably illegal." An older white man disagreed with her. "Airlines have the right to set dress codes," he said. "If you want to fly first class, you need to look professional." The crowd began to argue among themselves about whether Patricia was right or wrong. The situation was getting out of control. Marcus knew he needed to do something before things got worse. He pulled out his phone and stepped to the side. Marcus called his executive assistant, Sarah, who worked at Tech Forward Solutions. Sarah had been with the company for 5 years and was like family to Marcus. She was smart and loyal and always knew how to handle difficult situations. "Sarah, I need you to come to the airport immediately," Marcus said quietly into the phone. "Bring the Premier Airlines contract and all the legal documents we have about the deal. Also bring our lawyer's phone number and my business cards." While Marcus was on the phone, Patricia continued talking to the security guards. She was trying to convince them that she was just doing her job and following company policy. The female security guard looked uncomfortable with the whole situation. The male security guard approached Marcus after he finished his phone call. "Sir, I understand you are upset, but you need to move away from the counter," he said. "You are blocking other passengers from checking in." Marcus looked around and saw that a long line had formed behind him. People were getting angry about the delay. Some were worried they would miss their flights because of the commotion. Marcus felt bad that innocent travelers were being affected by this situation. "I will move away from the counter," Marcus said to the security guard. "But I am not leaving this airport until this matter is resolved. I have been discriminated against, and I will not accept this treatment." Patricia overheard Marcus and laughed mockingly. "You can complain all you want," she said. "But I am just following the rules. No one is going to change the policy because you are upset about your hair." Marcus stared at Patricia with a calm expression on his face. He did not argue or raise his voice. Instead, he simply said, "You have no idea who you are dealing with. In a few minutes you are going to regret what you have done today." Patricia rolled her eyes and continued helping other passengers. She thought Marcus was just another angry customer making empty threats. She had dealt with difficult passengers before and always won these battles. But this time was different. This time, she had picked a fight with the wrong person. 20 minutes later, Sarah Chen arrived at the airport running through the terminal with a large black folder under her arm. She was Marcus's executive assistant and had worked for Tech Forward Solutions for 5 years. Sarah was a smart woman in her early 30s who always dressed professionally. She had driven as fast as safely possible to get to the airport. Sarah found Marcus standing near the check-in counter with the security guards and a crowd of curious passengers. She could see the frustration on his face, even though he was trying to stay calm. This was not how the biggest day in company history was supposed to go. "Marcus, I brought everything you asked for," Sarah said as she handed him the thick folder. Inside were copies of the $50 million contract with Premier Airlines. There were also legal documents showing that Tech Forward Solutions was one of Premier's biggest technology partners. Marcus opened the folder and smiled for the first time since arriving at the airport. He had been waiting for these documents. Now he could show everyone exactly who he was and why Patricia had made a terrible mistake. Sarah whispered something in Marcus's ear about the contract details. His expression changed from frustrated to determined. He now had the tools he needed to handle this situation properly. Marcus walked back toward Patricia's counter with confidence in his step. "Excuse me, Miss Johnson," Marcus said politely to Patricia. "I would like to ask you some questions about Premier Airlines policies. Could you please provide me with your full name, employee identification number, and supervisor's contact information?" Patricia looked annoyed by his request. "Sir, I already told you that I cannot help you," she said rudely. "You need to find another flight or change your appearance. Those are your only options." Marcus remained calm and professional. "I understand your position," he said, "but I am requesting this information as someone who may need to file a formal complaint. You are required to provide employee information when asked by passengers." Patricia reluctantly gave Marcus her full name, which was Patricia Ann Johnson. Her employee number was P7432. She said that her supervisor was in a meeting and could not be disturbed. Marcus wrote down all the information carefully. "Now, Miss Johnson, I have some important documents I would like to show you," Marcus said. He opened the black folder and pulled out several official papers. "These documents might change your understanding of this situation." Patricia glanced at the papers but did not seem interested. "Sir, I do not care what papers you have," she said dismissively. "The dress code policy applies to everyone equally. No documents will change that fact." The security guards moved closer to see what Marcus was showing. Other passengers in the area also tried to get a better look at the papers. Sarah stood next to Marcus with a serious expression on her face. Marcus held up a document with the Premier Airlines logo at the top. "This is a signed contract between your airline and my company," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "The contract is worth $50 million and was scheduled to be completed today in New York." Some people in the crowd gasped when they heard the amount of money. $50 million was more than most people could imagine. Patricia still did not seem to understand what Marcus was telling her. Marcus continued speaking. "My name is Marcus Williams, and I am the CEO of Tech Forward Solutions. We have been working with Premier Airlines for 2 years to develop new software systems. Your company has been testing our technology and wants to purchase it." Patricia's face began to change as she realized what Marcus was saying. She looked at the documents more carefully and saw the official signatures and company seals. The papers were real, and Marcus was telling the truth. "This meeting in New York is worth more money than this entire airport terminal makes in a month," Marcus said. "Your decision to deny me boarding because of my hairstyle may have just cost Premier Airlines their biggest technology contract." The crowd around them grew larger as word spread about what was happening. People could not believe that an airline employee had just discriminated against a $50 million business partner. Sarah pulled out her phone and prepared to make some very important calls. Sarah handed Marcus his phone, and he stepped away from the crowd. He scrolled through his contacts until he found the number he was looking for. David Richardson, CEO, Premier Airlines. Marcus had spoken with David many times over the past 2 years. They had built a good business relationship, and David respected Marcus as a leader in technology. Marcus pressed the call button and waited. The phone rang 3 times before David answered. His voice sounded happy and excited. "Marcus, my friend," David said warmly. "I was just thinking about you. I cannot wait to see you in New York today. This is going to be a historic day for both our companies." "David, we have a serious problem," Marcus said in a calm but firm voice. "I am calling you from Atlanta Airport, where one of your employees just refused to let me board my flight." David was confused by what Marcus was saying. "What do you mean refused?" he asked. "Is there a problem with your ticket or reservation?" "The problem is not with my ticket," Marcus explained. "Your employee, Patricia Johnson, told me that my hairstyle does not meet Premier Airlines dress code standards. She will not allow me to board because I have braids." There was complete silence on the other end of the phone. David could not believe what he was hearing. This had to be some kind of mistake or misunderstanding. No Premier Airlines employee would discriminate against passengers based on their appearance. "Marcus, are you serious?" David asked quietly. "Please tell me this is not really happening." "I am standing in your airport terminal right now with security guards watching me," Marcus said. "Your employee called them because I refused to leave the counter. There are dozens of people here witnessing this discrimination." David felt sick to his stomach. He had worked hard to build Premier Airlines into a respected company. Now one of his employees had just discriminated against his most important business partner. This could destroy everything he had worked for. "Marcus, I am so sorry," David said with genuine emotion in his voice. "This is completely unacceptable and does not represent our company values. I will fix this situation immediately." "David," Marcus said slowly, "I want you to understand something. This is not just about me being embarrassed or inconvenienced. This is about how your company treats people based on their race and appearance. I have to reconsider whether Tech Forward Solutions wants to do business with an airline that allows this kind of discrimination." The word hit David like a punch to the face. The $50 million contract was the biggest deal in Premier Airlines history. Losing this partnership would be devastating to the company. More importantly, David genuinely cared about treating all people fairly and with respect. "Marcus, please do not make any decisions right now," David pleaded. "Give me 30 minutes to get to the airport and speak with you in person. I promise you that this situation will be resolved and the people responsible will be held accountable." "I will wait 30 minutes," Marcus said. "But David, I want you to know that this experience has changed how I view Premier Airlines. Your company will need to prove to me that this was not representative of your true values." After hanging up the phone, Marcus walked back to where Sarah was waiting. The crowd around the check-in counter had grown even larger. News of the discrimination incident was spreading through social media. People were taking pictures and videos that would soon be seen by millions of people around the world. Patricia was still at her counter, but now looked very nervous. Other Premier Airlines employees had arrived and were asking her questions about what happened. She was starting to realize that her actions might have serious consequences. Marcus stood calmly with Sarah and waited for David to arrive. He knew that the next 30 minutes would determine the future relationship between Tech Forward Solutions and Premier Airlines. More importantly, this incident could become a catalyst for real change in how airlines treat passengers who look different from traditional business standards. Within 10 minutes of Marcus's phone call with David Richardson, the entire atmosphere at the airport terminal began to change. David had immediately called the airport general manager, who then contacted the head of customer service. Emergency meetings were being held in offices throughout the airport complex. The first person to arrive at the check-in counter was Jennifer Walsh, the customer service director for Premier Airlines. She was a woman in her 40s wearing a navy blue business suit. Jennifer looked panicked as she approached Marcus and Patricia. Jennifer walked directly to Patricia and spoke in a low, urgent voice. "Patricia, what exactly happened here?" she asked. "I need to know every detail of your conversation with this passenger." Patricia tried to explain her actions, but her voice was shaking. She said that Marcus did not meet the appearance standards for first-class passengers. She pointed to the small sign behind the counter and insisted she was just following company policy. Jennifer looked at the sign and then at Marcus. She could see that he was professionally dressed and well-groomed. His braids were neat and styled perfectly. There was nothing unprofessional about his appearance. More Premier Airlines executives continued to arrive at the terminal. The vice president of operations came running from his office. The head of legal affairs was called from her lunch meeting. Within 20 minutes, there were 6 senior management people standing around the check-in counter. Sarah noticed that all the executives looked terrified. They kept whispering to each other and glancing at Marcus nervously. She could tell that these people understood exactly how serious this situation had become. One of the executives approached Marcus and introduced himself. "Sir, my name is Robert Chen, and I am the Vice President of Operations," he said politely. "On behalf of Premier Airlines, I want to apologize for what happened here today." Marcus listened to Robert, but did not respond immediately. He was watching Patricia, who was now surrounded by her supervisors. She was clearly in trouble, and everyone knew it. The confidence she had shown earlier was completely gone. A younger executive pulled Jennifer aside and showed her something on his phone. It was a video of Patricia denying Marcus boarding because of his hairstyle. The video had been posted on social media and was already being shared thousands of times. "This is a disaster," Jennifer said to the other executives. "The video is going viral, and people are calling for boycotts of our airline. We need to fix this situation immediately before it gets worse." The executives huddled together to discuss their options. They knew that Patricia had violated company anti-discrimination policies. They also knew that Marcus was one of their most valuable business partners. The $50 million contract was at risk, and the company's reputation was being damaged by the minute. Patricia stood alone at her counter watching all the chaos around her. She was beginning to understand that she had made a terrible mistake. Other employees were looking at her with disapproval and disappointment. Some passengers in line were demanding to speak with different agents because they did not want Patricia to help them. Meanwhile, Marcus remained calm and composed despite all the activity around him. Sarah stood next to him, taking notes on her phone about everything that was happening. They both knew that this incident would have lasting consequences far beyond just one missed flight. A security supervisor approached Marcus and apologized for the earlier confrontation. "Sir, we did not understand the full situation," he said. "We should have handled this matter differently from the beginning." Marcus thanked the security supervisor for his apology. He appreciated that some people were willing to admit their mistakes and try to make things right. 25 minutes after the phone call, a black limousine pulled up outside the terminal. David Richardson had arrived at the airport personally to deal with the crisis. The CEO of Premier Airlines was about to face the biggest challenge of his career. How he handled the next few minutes would determine whether his company could recover from this incident, or if it would become a permanent stain on their reputation. The Premier Airlines executives all straightened their ties and prepared to meet with their boss. They knew that David would be angry about what happened, and someone would probably lose their job today. Patricia looked like she might faint as she watched David's car arrive at the terminal. David Richardson walked through the airport terminal with fast, determined steps. He was a tall man in his early 50s with gray hair and a serious expression. David had built Premier Airlines into one of the most successful carriers in the country. He was known for his fairness and commitment to treating all passengers with respect. When David reached the check-in area, he immediately saw Marcus standing near the counter. The two men had met several times during business meetings, and David respected Marcus as a brilliant entrepreneur. Seeing him surrounded by security guards and confused passengers made David feel ashamed of his company. David walked directly to Marcus and extended his hand. "Marcus, my deepest apologies for what happened here today," he said sincerely. "This is completely unacceptable and does not represent the values of Premier Airlines." Marcus shook David's hand, but his expression remained serious. "David, I appreciate you coming here personally," he said, "but an apology is not enough to fix what happened. Your employee discriminated against me because of my race and my hairstyle. This is a very serious problem." David nodded and looked around at all the people watching their conversation. He could see passengers recording videos with their phones. The incident was already becoming a public relations nightmare for his company. "You are absolutely right, Marcus," David said. "What happened here was discrimination, and it will not be tolerated. I want to make this right, but I need your help to understand exactly what you want from Premier Airlines." Marcus had been thinking about this moment during the 30 minutes he waited for David to arrive. He had two choices. He could walk away from the business deal and find another airline partner, or he could use this opportunity to create real change that would help other people facing similar discrimination. "David, I am not interested in personal compensation or special treatment," Marcus said clearly. "What I want is for Premier Airlines to completely change their policies about passenger appearance and cultural expression. Your current dress code allows employees like Patricia to discriminate against people based on their race and heritage." David listened carefully to Marcus's words. He knew that changing company policies would be complicated and expensive, But he also knew that Marcus was offering him a chance to save the $50 million contract and repair the company's damaged reputation. "What specific changes do you want to see?" David asked. "I am willing to work with you to create policies that are fair and inclusive for all passengers." Marcus pulled out some notes that Sarah had written while they waited. "First," he said, "your dress code policy must explicitly state that natural hairstyles, including braids, locks, and twists, are considered professional and appropriate. Second, all employees must receive training about cultural diversity and unconscious bias. Third, you need to establish a clear process for passengers to report discrimination without fear of retaliation." David was impressed by how thoughtful and specific Marcus's requests were. These were not angry demands for revenge. They were reasonable suggestions that would make Premier Airlines a better company for everyone. "Marcus, I agree with everything you have said," David replied. "In fact, I want to go even further than what you have suggested. I want Premier Airlines to become a leader in diversity and inclusion within the airline industry." The two men continued talking for several more minutes while the crowd around them listened. David promised to have new policies written within 48 hours. He also committed to personally overseeing diversity training for all Premier Airlines employees. During their conversation, Patricia stood at her counter looking increasingly uncomfortable. She could hear every word David and Marcus were saying. She knew that her actions had started something much bigger than just one denied boarding. David eventually turned his attention to Patricia. "Miss Johnson," he said sternly, "your behavior today was completely inappropriate and violated our company's anti-discrimination policies. You will be suspended immediately pending a full investigation." Patricia tried to defend herself, but David held up his hand to stop her. "There is no excuse for what you did," he said firmly. "You will report to Human Resources tomorrow morning for disciplinary action." After dealing with Patricia, David turned back to Marcus. "I know that trust needs to be rebuilt between our companies," he said. "I hope you will still consider signing the contract, but I understand if you need time to think about it." Marcus looked at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. "David," he said, "I believe that people and companies can change when they are given the right motivation. I am willing to move forward with our business partnership under one condition." "What condition?" David asked. "I want to be personally involved in creating and implementing Premier Airlines' new diversity policies," Marcus said. "This partnership should be about more than just technology. It should be about creating positive change that benefits millions of travelers." David smiled for the first time since arriving at the airport. "Marcus, I would be honored to have you help us become a better company," he said. "Let us work together to make sure that what happened today never happens again to anyone." Marcus spoke about the importance of using negative experiences to create positive change. He told the audience that he hoped other companies would follow Premier Airlines' example and examine their own policies for discriminatory language or practices. The new policies took effect immediately at all Premier Airlines locations. Posters explaining passenger rights were placed in every terminal. Employee training sessions began within a week and would continue until every worker had completed the program. Patricia Johnson was terminated from her job after a thorough investigation confirmed that she had violated company anti-discrimination policies. David Richardson personally signed the termination letter to send a clear message that discrimination would not be tolerated at any level of the organization.